So what I'd like to talk with you about, since Carol has given me 15 minutes, is briefly what the state's economic plan is and how the recovery accelerates that plan. It is really important that we do have a chance to converse, but there are some real clear specifics in both our plan as well as the recovery plan. I'm going to try to hit them, but if I don't, I hope we'll be able to at least answer it during the question and answer period. Okay, so since 2001, because of the contraction in the automotive sector and the manufacturing industry, Michigan, by the end of next year, we'll have lost 760,000 jobs for this decade. Much of that, of course, is related to automotive, but manufacturing overall has seen an enormous contraction. It's a global shift, as many of you know, especially those of you who are in the manufacturing sector. So we've talked a long time as a state about diversifying this economy. And we are going to emerge from this recession much more diverse than when we entered this decade. And it's going to be tough. And it has been tough. And the question is, what are we doing to accelerate that diversification to bring in jobs for our citizens? We have a strategic plan that involves three things. One is diversification, one is educating our citizens, and the third is protecting people during this tough time, protecting them physically, but also protecting their pocketbook. With respect to diversification, you need to know that we have added a whole slew of new tools to Michigan's economic development toolbox. In fact, in 2008, there were 13 additional legislative measures that I'm grateful to our state legislature for having adopted that made 2008, despite everything that you have heard out there regarding job losses, 2008 was the Michigan Economic Development Corporation's best year for attracting jobs, numbers-wise. In fact, this past 5 years, actually since 2005, Michigan, through the efforts of the MEDC, we've created or retained over 300,000 jobs in Michigan. And they're in areas that you would want us to move in. Obviously, we want to protect what we have with respect to automotive, but some of it is beyond our control. And some of leadership during these times, and you know this too, if you are running an organization, there are forces beyond your control. And in Michigan, there are forces beyond our control. Globalization is beyond our control. The ability of countries to pay, 50 cents an hour or $1.50 an hour, it's beyond our control. But what we can do is focus on bringing new sectors and focus on enhancing the talent level of our citizens so that we can attract those sectors. Last year, the MEDC was able to deploy these tools. We came in number 3rd in the country for the number of new expansions or selections of Michigan by businesses. We won the 3rd place in the Governor's Cup, and by numbers, it was by far the best year. We have focused on diversifying in several areas, and I'm going to be really brief because I know we got to get to the economic recovery piece, but I want you to know what we are doing. No other state has done what we've done in terms of 21st century jobs. We've securitized our tobacco settlement dollars to create a $2 billion 10-year effort at bringing in sectors that are involving advanced manufacturing such as robotics, nanotechnology, life sciences, homeland security and defense, and alternative energy. And I will spend a minute on alternative energy throughout the course of this morning, I know. But with respect to those 4 areas, we have brought in a whole slew of companies, but many of them are small companies. In this new economy, we have to give birth to entrepreneurs. We have focused an awful lot on venture capital, access to capital, small businesses, to be able to give birth to those sectors that we think enhance our natural strengths. Alternative energy enhances our natural strengths because we've got geography like no one else in the country. Other governors would pine for what we have as a state. In fact, as the CEO of Michigan, like those of you who are CEOs of your companies, you look at how you're going to get a competitive advantage on your fellow CEOs, Michigan's competitive advantage involves our geography and our history with the automotive industry. Geography because we have more miles of shoreline than any other state in the country other than Alaska. That means that there's a lot of wind off of that shoreline. We're the fourth best state in the country, according to the National Energy Center, for the production of wind and wind manufacturing. Those wind turbine manufacturers are looking for places to locate. And they want to locate where there's access to factory space, where there's access to talent that knows how to do CNC machining, where there's access to infrastructure to transport large objects, and where there's access to water so they can move these large wind turbines. We have all of that. And this is why we have focused in this area, because we have assets that no other state has.